Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is our last session of the day, so I hope it's been a great, productive day for you. Today, we are talking about seeing the full picture, how Placer.ai's partners uncover population and market insights. So we're going to have everyone step up, and then they're going to be able to introduce themselves.
Hi. All right. Well, first off, let me introduce myself. I'm Steve Banfield. I'm the VP of Business Development of Marketplace at Placer, and I wear a couple of hats. One is I'm responsible for our marketplace. So many of you know all the add-ons and all the great products that we have, and we've got some of those companies here with us today. And the other hat is beyond that, just sort of I work with pretty much all of our data partners. So all the different kinds of companies that add insight and context to the Placer data that we make available in the platform. And you can really think about the kind of data we have really gets distilled down into a couple of buckets. I'm going to really oversimplify, so hopefully the product team isn't in here right now. But it really can be categorized into two things. Data about places, well, that sounds familiar, right? It's sort of what we do on the box. And data about people and populations. And today, on today's panel, we've got really four folks that I've just loved working with the whole time. And you can see two of them have data about people and populations, and two of them have data about places and areas. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that fits together and what they bring to the table with Placer and everything else. So let me just ask them all one by one to introduce themselves. We'll start right here with Henry.
My name's Henry Moore. I am the CEO of Resimplify, and we are a provider of commercial real estate listing data.
My name is Pablo Gonzalez. I'm VP of Sales for Synergos. Our flagship product is PopStats, and we count people and households. That's our bread and butter.
I'm Alex Deloach, VP of Sales for Abexo, Build Central, and we track places. So our data is in Placer as plan developments.
My name is Line Faust. I'm the CEO of Spatial.ai, and we provide psychographic segmentation data sets, proximity, Persona Live, and the Fallgraph data set in the marketplace.
Great. Thanks, guys. Well, given that we have a very short period of time to cover a huge amount of information, I'm going to dive right in. So let me just ask each of you to help everyone here understand a little bit about your data set. And I'll start with you, Lyd, and we'll just kind of work our way back down. How do you acquire, build your data set? What kind of goes into helping people understand the populations that are visiting their retail and commercial locations?
Yeah, so kind of our flagship product is the Persona Live data set, and it is, like I said, classification of U.S. households. And we use three primary data sources. One is the demographics at the household level, those people, age, income, marital status, etc. Second thing that we use is social media. So what do those people follow? Third thing that we use is the mobile data. So what types of retail do those people visit? And what that makes in the end is a segmentation that's real time of those AE segments that we have. And as it relates to the Placer platform, you can see estimated visits to your location, but you can also classify that by the personalized segments as well to see, okay, what are they following? What are they interested in? What kind of brands are they talking about? And actually activate marketing against that.
Great. Alex?
So we essentially track who is planning to build what, where, and when. Our core customer would be a construction contractor or someone that's looking to bid on projects that are under construction or plan to go under construction. What we've done differently with Placer and spatial tools is we've actually applied a latitude, longitude of that planned construction project, and now it's relevant to a whole new market. So it's kind of cool. It's something that evolved over time. This type of data has been around since the 1800s, and just by putting it on a map, it's made it relevant and helpful to so many more people.
We do demographics, like I said before. We count people and households. We are sort of a precursor to what Leiden does. Leiden paints color on the picture. We sort of do the outlines, right? So we spend a lot of time in tracking at a neighborhood level how many people are there, their incomes, race, ethnicity. There's some things, some traits that we track that could be tied to behaviors as well, but mainly think of how many people live where, family makeup, and things like that. Most of our input data sets are public. What's very difficult to do is to take a public data source that maybe has county level data and then take that data down to a specific neighborhood, down to a specific block. That's where our expertise lies. So.
Yeah, we found that commercial real estate brokerage websites tend to be the best sources of information. So all of our data comes directly from online public brokerage shops. We have currently over 280,000 active listings and 400,000 off-market listings that are updated weekly. We also work with smaller tertiary, secondary markets, rural communities to identify key thought leaders that may own properties or for sale by owner type properties that may or may not be on the market.
So let me ask, maybe I'll start with you, Alex. You talked a little bit about your customer, potentially, your sort of regular customer might be a construction company, somebody who's trying to sell into the trades that are trying to build at a particular location. But when you think about people in commercial real estate and retail, at what point in the life cycle do you think people should be using your data? What point should they be looking to try to understand what's being built, what's under construction, what's coming ahead, and what are some of the use cases you've seen that have worked well for how people use the Build Central data?
Yeah, absolutely. So this new use case, I would say, is more about market planning. So what's coming into the market that may affect future assets and existing assets. So if I'm a quick service restaurant and I'm analyzing my existing portfolio, maybe there are things that are coming into the market like a new shopping center or a new housing development. They're going to flood that site with more customers. I need to prepare for that. Or maybe I'm looking at building a multifamily development. I need to gauge how much supply is coming into the market. Then finally, I would say it's still a lead source for a lot of folks in commercial real estate. So just like Henry's data can show you off-market opportunities, our data could show you potential off-market opportunities and people that have stuff that's planned to go into construction where maybe you can broker something at the end of that deal. Those are really the biggest use cases, I'd say, we see across retailers and then commercial real estate developers and brokers.
Okay. Let me ask you a similar question, which is, your data can be used by so many different groups, right? It can be used by people that are doing marketing, that want to identify which customers to reach out to and communicate to and how to activate those customers. It could be used by people, doing site selection to try to identify which areas might be best suited to find the customers that have worked for them. How do you've got so many great stories. Have you seen some really good use cases for how people have used some of the different spatial data to make sort of decisions in their day-to-day work?
Yeah, sure. You can give me like some specific examples then?
You want me to give you an example?
No, you're asking me to give some specific examples?
I give them the example. I don't
Sure.
really need it. They need it. I've heard these stories. I'm just prompting you.
Yeah, okay, so primarily what we saw in around 2019 is mobile data had really hit scale, and there's two things it was doing that was never possible before. One was understanding the true trade area. Second one was understanding estimated visits in that. We believe that there were two other questions that people were going to begin to ask. That is, who are the people that are visiting this location? The second is, how do I target the people that are going to be interested in our brand? So that's why we started building the Persona Live data set. And as far as the specific use cases, why I think this is really important for using psychographics specifically based on their behavior, not just primarily on demographics, is that you might have two demographic groups that exact same income, exact same age range, but they might be interested in very, very, very different things. I'll give you an example of that if you want a very specific example. We have a segment that's making over $200,000 on average. They're called Fusion Families. But if you look at their retail preferences, they're going to very, very basic retail, with one exception. And that is they will spend enormous amounts of money on their kids' education, Goddard School. They go to 10 times more likely than the average person to take their kids to music lessons. What's going on here? We looked. It's first and second generation immigrants. Their cultural preferences are totally different. Their interests are totally different. If you were to put a location there that would expect their income levels and what they would spend, that location would probably fall flat unless it is in those two categories. And so that's where I think it's really important, not only in a site selection type scenario, but also a marketing scenario. So you are matching the offer to what the audience interests are.
That's great. That's a great example. There's so many great stories like that we hear from Placer customers who are using Persona Live, and it's been one of the most popular products in our marketplace. And if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. Pablo, let me switch to you for a second. You know, demographics is changing all the time. And you guys, you talked about part of your secret sauce is taking sort of zip code or sort of higher level data and sort of bringing it back down to smaller, more granular levels. As you model that data out and as you think about that, how do you do the work you do to avoid sort of biases or avoid sort of introducing errors into that it's super hard. And so it's one of the reasons that people value your data set so much. So can you talk a little bit about the work you guys do there?
For sure. There are three key sources of potential error and bias when we were creating our data sets. One of them is timing. The other one is geography, and the other one is any information that is survey based. So whenever people look at demographic data, they think of the census happens every 10 years. We have the task of filling in the gap between those 10 years. Those are the only times every 10 years that we get to grade ourselves on how good we did or didn't do. The other thing is when we look at our demographic estimate, we're trying to tell our customer on July 1st, when we release our data in October, it's our July 1st estimate. On that day, this is how many people we believe lived at this place. There's a huge difference between releasing a product yearly in our space and saying this is the 2024 estimate, and someone asking when is it January 1st 2024, is it October 30th 2023? In 6 months a lot of things can happen. That development may have open leasing and you may have 600 extra people, right? That is a huge make or break number of people for grocery stores. For example, 80% of grocers out there make decisions based on our data because their business model relies so heavily on that being accurate. If you're off by more than 10%, that store might fail, right? So we not only try to count people very accurately at a low level, we also consider the timing of our releases and when we tell you that release was for to be the most accurate. Because also you could have places that shut down, right? A lot of people rely on us for our forecast, for example, but we are also very straightforward with what and transparent with our methodology. There's only so far that you can take our trend-based forecast into 5 years without it raising some questions. That's when we point at people like Alex and say, well, if you want to really create your own forecast, you're going to have to work with their data, look at build plan developments. Not every development gets made. Not every development reaches completion, but they have hundreds of people knocking on doors and talking to people. So when you look at our data paired with data like his, now you're not only looking at the present, you're looking at the future more accurately. Third, I mentioned surveys. A lot of the data that we have, it starts with households and population. I believe it, not just because I'm selling it, but we're the best at telling you how many people live where. A lot of the color that we add on that, whether it be race, gender, ethnicity, incomes, a lot of that is survey based. Also, a lot of it from government sources. You always run the danger of making an assumption over, well, the only people that answer the survey are people that answer the door at 3 p.m. That's bias immediately, right? Or people that like to answer the survey online. Well, there's a type of person that answers surveys online. So we do our best to have a consistent methodology over time. And whatever is survey based, we don't make drastic changes when surveys are showing that there are drastic changes, because the reality is populations don't change as drastically, at least on a quarterly basis that we output our data set. So
that's great. So it's a different kind of error or different kind of bias when we're talking about places, right? So Henry, you guys are pulling data from thousands of sources every week, honestly. How do you make sure that you don't have or miss different sources? How do you make sure there aren't gaps or errors? And how do you try to stay on top of? Because staying on top of commercial real estate listings is a huge, it's a huge problem to cover the entire country. We're talking thousands and thousands of listings.
Yeah. Absolutely. So initially, our idea was to actually our logo on our website was go local, find more. So we focused kind of the gateway opportunity was the idea that we were going to go into the civic space. Economic development organizations have websites. Those entities are tasked with recruiting and retaining industry within the areas that they cover. Within site selection, it's vitally important that the information be accurate. So if an entity has an RFI, for example, and they want that municipality or county to respond and say what properties are available, those properties actually have to be available. So accuracy was really important to us. But we went on a case by case basis. So we started small. We tried to identify the sources within that geographical area. But once we understood how a known entity, a large broker shop, structured its data, we could basically do that at scale. So we started 4 years ago, and bit by bit, we've understood who the players were, and we started to collect that data over time. And now we're to the point where we can sell our data to companies like yourself.
Great. I'll toss this out for all of you. I asked a couple of you kind of good use cases and how people have used your data. Are there ways your data can be misunderstood or not, misused may be too strong a word, but can people read the wrong things into it? Are there cases where they shouldn't use it to mean certain things? I mean, probably you just were talking about, you shouldn't think about population changing in certain, as frequently, right? It takes time for these things to happen over time. They have to settle through. Are there places where your data's you've seen maybe shouldn't have been used that way, or you had to sort of help people think about it, sort of think about their using your data in a different way?
I can start just because you were looking at me.
And all the above. I'll take.
Yeah, no, yeah, most definitely understanding the methodology of the data is extremely important. There, for example, even talking about a total population count and understanding how many on that population are household versus group quarters. Like, I know what group quarters means. Some people have no clue. It could be a prison, it could be a college, right? But they're different types of population. Understanding the different types of seasonal, transient, or permanent population also is critical. So we have a lot of people saying, hey, your estimate says that there are these many people here, but this grocery store is struggling. I'm like, when in the year is it struggling? Traverse City, Michigan has 80% of the population is seasonal, right? It's a retirement community, 80% of the people. So if you want to raise children in that area, guess what? The school system may not be as great because you don't have as many people paying taxes all year long and that care about that community and that care about the younger family. So a lot of the time it is about qualifying what you're trying to get at, what type of population are you looking at, and yeah, really getting down to the specifics of how our company specifically defines a variable and how you're going to use it. We get that a lot because they were using a competitor product and it sounds the same. It rhymes, but it's not the same. So
I would say for us, it's leaning too hard into one data source. So yeah, you could say, all right, these are my 3 segments. These are my psychographic segments. That's all I care about. But this is a snapshot in time about those psychographic segments. And if you're not looking at the demographics in an area and you're just primarily looking at those people, like, is there enough population to actually support the trade area? So I think that's really important. When it comes to your guys' data, is the area changing? Right? So this is happening along a continuum, and is there actually some place that can actually locate there? So it's using a combination of these things. Some other things that I see people do is assume that their best customer now is going to be the most profitable audience in the future. So let's say you have a very wealthy customer base. If you think that you can actually target those people very cheaply, well, guess what? Everybody else is targeting them on the ad platforms. And this is an auction, so the CPMs are going to go up on that. It's not like you're going to get that audience cheaply. This is another kind of personal thing that I think people are way over targeting millennials and Gen Z, way over targeting millennials and Gen Z, thinking that's where the money is. No, the money's actually in the boomers. The boomers actually have more of a population, and a lot of people think, oh no, boomers, oh, they're not actually on digital advertising. No, it's absolutely not true at all. In fact, they're actually getting on things like TikTok, and they're super cheap because nobody's actually targeting those people. And so I think there's a lot of wasted ad spend just going after the people that they think are popular. I think there's pockets like minorities, like older people, that there's a lot of opportunity that we're not talking to.
let me ask, and again, I'll sort of throw this out for everyone. I mean, Placer's an AI company. You guys are all at various levels using new forms of AI to sort of think about this. How are some of these new technologies helping you improve your pipeline, improve your data accuracy? How are you applying these tools to the data sets and the products you're building? So I'll toss it out there. Henry, if you want to go first, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for us, we're reliant on what brokers put online, and they often exclude important details like sales price. And so we've done a nice job of using machine learning models to look at unstructured data and essentially structure it. So, enriching our data, supplementing our data is something that we've seen a lot of benefit out of.
So we're part of a global entity, and I think there's been a move. We rely on a lot of human research to try to see how much of that we can move to AI. There's still, we have over 200 researchers that call, email, and validate the data, which I think is very important. And some of the information, like who the developer is or who the owner is, you may not be able to get that through public information. It may need vetting to get their phone number, get their email. But that's where we've been looking at. We've been relying on machine learning to gather information to the research team for a while now, but I think it's turning the page to say how can some of this manual stuff that we're doing be taken over by AI and relieve our workforce to go and call and email people.
Any,
I can
guess?
yeah.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
Well, there's two ways that I think of how AI is affecting our company, how we will affect AI in the future. Internally, we're all using AI tools as they progress and they become useful just to save us time, right? I mean, our people that write code are having AI write code for them. I mean, if you write a single original line of code, you're an idiot and you're wasting company money. That's been my philosophy every time that my developers in my last companies, you're not going into GitHub and finding something that's already been worked over and vetted by hundreds of people before you. Why are you wasting time recreating like the wheel, right, so to speak? So we're using it in any way possible internally. We also look at AI as a potential threat to our model. We basically have a very good mathematical model. That's what we became famous for, and we think it's the best in the industry. When will AI be capable of answering that question to someone, right? Or when will someone know how to ask the right question for AI to give them an answer that basically replicates what we do? So we also look at it as a threat, right? In that sense that AI could eventually develop enough reasoning to become a threat to us, and now anybody could do a demographic estimate close to as good as ours. Now, what we have, and when I look at how we develop our product and how what we've created will be used, if you know how AI is trained, basically, at least today, the way LLMs are trained, you need knowledge. You need a source of knowledge, and I think of us as a foundational data set. For the last 23 years, our company has been publishing a quarterly estimate on demographics nationwide at a block level. Think about it on a block group level, but let's think more simply at a block level. Not only have we been doing that from a modeled perspective, we have thousands of demographics and analytics people that work across grocery, retail, investment that have been vetting every single one of our releases, right? And telling us, hey, I think you missed something here. This development actually is populated and y'all missed it. And over the course of 10 years, the last 10 years between the 2010 and 2020 census, we have a data challenge system, and we had 3 successful data challenges out of dozens submitted. I mean that we agreed with the customer. Yep, we were wrong there. So that historical repository of population and households is extremely valuable if you want to train an AI to then be able to do what we do better in the future. So that's how we see it. Like I said, we see it a threat. We see it as an opportunity in the sense that we have a foundational data set that has been vetted for over 2 decades.
Yeah, I want to pile onto that. So there's a guy named Kevin Kelly, and he talks about what technology wants. Anybody hear that? What technology? It's like a book, but what they want by Kevin Kelly. What he talks about is AI is data hungry. it's very data hungry. They're literally getting sued right now from the New York Times because of scraping data. ChatGPT is. But what I think is AI is really good at doing is it's really good at looking wide across different data sets. That's why I think the new stuff that Placer is announcing is pretty cool, is because it's triangulating data sets. And like as humans, that's pretty hard to go look at the demographics and then look at their open spots here and then look at the foot traffic data. I think it's really cool when you can get insights across multiple different data sources. And that's what I'm really excited about for happening in the future.
Great. Maybe I'll stick with you for a second, Lyd, and I'll ask everyone this, I guess. How would you encourage people to think about the return on investment, right? Because everybody's investing. They're investing in Placer. They're investing in your data set or other add-ons, other tools to visualize this. How should they be thinking about calculating or thinking about that return on investment? Because it's, it's a lot, right? It's an investment of not just money, but it's investment of time to learn and understand these tools because they're advanced and they're fully functional. So how should they be thinking about that kind of return on investment?
I think there's a few ways of measuring the return on investment. So there's also speed to decision making that a lot of people don't think about. Like, did I get to the decision faster? Did I communicate it internally in my company faster? And did I get a deal done? So that's one place that data can help a lot. And then there's some other ways that are pretty easy to measure on ROI. When you select a location, like you can look pretty quickly with the Placer data is like, did we have a pretty good opening? Right. So that's one thing, and we can back test that. The second thing is you can back test all of our data sets against sales in the past. So that gives you a sense of like, hey, I've got conviction that this is actually going to work. Third thing that you can look is if you're actually activating advertising against it, you can see CPMs pretty much immediately. That's amazing that we can do that. Like, we live in a day and age where we can actually see and calculate these ROIs pretty quickly. So, I mean, it's depending on whatever value trigger or action you're doing in your business, you can measure it a few ways.
Great. Anybody else want to jump in there?
Well, I mean, the cost of a wrong decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah. We're talking about millions of dollars of building a new site, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
for a restaurant, whoever, right? If you rely on foot traffic and lunch and serving lunch, well, then you should be using my workplace data set, which is my daytime population, right? So PopStats is where people sleep, workplaces where people work and spend their 9 to 5, like simple things like that, and having that understanding of how population moves not only throughout the year but also throughout the day, that will matter a lot. Hence why tools like Placer have become so critical. I was next door, and he was talking about how they could, for a car wash, right? They need 30,000 cars to drive through a day. Yeah, that's awesome. That was impossible just a few years ago. Now, thanks to these guys, right, it's easier to use it to make decisions. A street may look awesome, right? May look great, and that realtor may have that hunch, like, oh, this is the place, but the data doesn't back it up. If it really is a numbers game, the potential loss, and it goes beyond just ROI, right? So,
Absolutely. What's coming next, guys? What cool stuff is coming down the pipe? What makes you excited about 2025 and what you're bringing for your individual products? I mean, in as much as you can share with us all, like, what's got you pumped and excited about new features or new capabilities? Is it more coverage? Is it more accuracy? Is it more details, right? Is it sort of more columns in the data set? What's got you guys excited? Where are you going to be spending your efforts in 2025?
Am I allowed to talk about that?
You could talk about whatever you want. I'm not going to you're too far away for me to tackle. I mean, I can try. I could.
Yeah, no, I'll talk about two things I'm really pumped about. Generative AI thing is pretty cool, and we got a lot of text data related to segments. It can read wide across the text and generate campaigns for you. So I'm really pumped for that. Jack's our data scientist here. He's sitting in the front row and putting a lot of pressure on him because that's part of what he's doing. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we made a really big investment in a credit card transaction data set with segmentation data sets. They've always been a proxy for answering one question: will these people buy? And second question is, how much will they spend? Well, now across 2,000 brands and 200 different categories, we know for every single segment what brands are buying and how much they're spending. We're seeing that over time and by market share. So you can see competitive market share by segment, by brand. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Nice.
So we used to say that we track any development that has four walls and a roof, and say now that we actually track roads, water, electrical, any sort of infrastructure. I'm really excited about that for land developers. I think it's a big deal because if you're looking at land on the outskirts of growth, is it suitable? Is it going to be suitable in the next 3 years? If you're a quick service restaurant or a gas station chain, maybe road construction could impact your current site, or the change in road structure could benefit your current site. So we're excited about that. And then single family homes. For a while now, we've had planned single family developments where we'll show you a dot on the map and say that there's 1,000 homes coming here. We bought the largest permit data provider in the country, and now we have the individual home permits so that you would be able to see each individual home on the map, and to not just be a single dot but a polygon.
Great.
Man, so much to be excited.
We only have 5 minutes left. I know.
Okay,
so
okay.
Yeah.
No, I gave a talk a couple of weeks ago, and usually my talks on demographics are kind of depressing because we're going extinct slowly. So I don't bring the excitement from that standpoint. There are pockets around the country where things are looking the right way, and I'm honestly just excited. Some new partnerships and other data sources that we have that I can't speak to yet, but that are getting people to ask more of the right questions. I get excited about Placer. We've been working with Placer since 2021. I come from the entertainment industry where trying to get people to make decisions based on data was near impossible and painful. And thanks to folks like these guys, people are getting smarter. It excites me to walk into a conference and have people ask questions that are clearly well informed and actually even challenge some of the preconceptions that exist out there. So that's one of the things that excites me. For our company, we're doing a big push over the next year into the banking and financial services space. Historically, demographics have played a limited part because banks, for example, can't use race right as a way to make a decision where they're going to place a bank or not. So our segmentation system doesn't even work for them. But we have some upcoming partnerships that not only are going to obviously benefit our company financially, but I think are going to help every other company that works with us because we're going to get a lot of rich data about how people are making financial decisions. And hopefully the next time I'm here, if I'm back next year, I can tell you all more about it.
Awesome. Henry?
Yeah, we continue to find additional sources of data. Our data set continues to grow. Also, like I mentioned before, supplementing our data via machine learning, and essentially Cameron is our lead developer. We're looking at things like property descriptions, and as well as PDFs in the future to again supplement and make our data richer. But the other thing I wanted to mention, which is honestly the most exciting for me, is I've been in commercial real estate, or involved with commercial real estate since 2008. And watching all of this change the industry, but specifically completing the transaction or research cycle within one application. So we think that providing the places component, the sites that are available within an application like Placer, could be extraordinarily valuable and something that the commercial real estate industry has been longing for a really long time.
So we've only got a couple minutes left. I want to first thank all the panelists and then open it up for a couple questions. Before we do that, I do want to let folks know we're going to wrap up and then there'll be a cocktail period. Out there in the cocktail area, you may have seen some of our panelists have little tables set up. So Henry and Alex and Leiden all have tables set up. So if you don't get your question answered here or you don't get a chance to talk to them, they'll be outside and their team. So Jack and Cameron and all the different folks will also be out there. So feel free to sit down and chat with them, learn more about what they do and how they work within Placer and how you can leverage their data inside the Placer platform. So with that, any questions anybody has?
Let's see some hands.
Any
Put them up there. Yeah, we go.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question has to do with the pop stats data. And I'm sure this is a
It's
question.
great. Thank you for asking.
For years, I've used another data set whose company is here as well. But my question for you is, how do you account for illegal or, non-legal status immigrants? And because they're not accounted for or possibly underaccounted for in the US Census. And if you're tracking back to the US Census, then potentially you're missing a large population. So how do you guys go about that?
That is a great question and one that I'm very uncomfortable answering. No, we get that question, and it's not like the government has approached us to say, "Hey, where are they?" or anything like that. Like it's not that level of uncomfortable, but because our methodology, and we're very open about our methodology and transparent with anyone that buys our data, even that doesn't buy our data. We are using postal level data essentially to understand who is receiving or what households are receiving mail and where. Eventually, every single one of those whatever person entered the country, whether it be legally or illegally, they will be in a household that receives mail or not. Now, there is a period of time usually, and there are some places where you may have 12 people, 3 families living under one roof. And you're absolutely right. The census is not going to catch that. We're not going to use our population or by household multiplier. We're not going to increase it to 12. But usually those are temporary or seasonal living situations. Eventually, every one of those individuals is going to have an address and will become, for the most part, 3, 4, 5 years into it, even though they're in legal status, a mail recipient. Because we rely so heavily on that postal data, we will eventually count them. And this is actually a source of some contention that we've had with some of our grocery partners, because they'll say, "Hey, your data is working, but it's off from the census." The census says this, and in over the last 20 years of publications, we've beat the census. We've beat the census forecast consistently. And once again, this is not by virtue of us saying, "Hey, we're going to try to guess how many illegal people are actually living in what city and whatnot." It's just because of how our source data is absorbed, and because we are counting every single household, whether it's an active postal code recipient or not, we end up catching those households. They are part of our account, but even though they're undocumented, we don't care. Our data does capture that population. Once again, add a buffer to it, right? There's a lot of households under temporary status that no one could understand, but traditionally we've been the best at hitting that number. Just to tout one more thing, between 2010 and 2020, we counted the population of the U.S. within 18,000 people. So that's, I think, pretty impressive for 300 plus million.
It's really great. Any other questions? I might throw one more out to the team.
An easy one, please.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jordan Tuck from Redfin. My question is actually for you, Steve. I'm curious, as you have conversations with companies like the folks on stage today, how do you vet which partners, which data sets to onboard? I'm sure one of them is the uniqueness of the data, but I'm sure it's not as simple as that.
It's a great question. And I like to joke that I'm everyone's favorite person in Placer because I'm the one that pays other people money, as opposed to people buying from us. We look at it a couple different ways. One is it starts with what our customers are telling us and how that informs our product roadmap. And so you heard earlier today in one of the sessions, Ophir, our chief product officer, and others were talking about what's coming. And so they'll come to me and our team and say, look, here's what we need. Here's what we think we're going to want. We're actually having that conversation about 2025 right now and try to understand, here's where we need to go look. And then it's really a sourcing effort of, is there a unique data provider? Are there multiple data providers that are out there that could fit that idea? And then we'll go out and we'll start having conversations with them to try to understand, hey, are you in the market of licensing your data? Are you being willing? Some of the most interesting data that we get actually, can often come from companies who aren't necessarily originally in the sort of data licensing business, right? It's things where they have data, it's of high quality, it's of high value, but they have another day job. And so the question is, hey, can we leverage some of what you have in some other way? Can it help us tell the story we need to tell? And it also varies by, there's some data we license which goes into our platform. We might use it for ground truth just to sort of compare ourselves and benchmark ourselves against. There's some, it's sort of like building a house, right? Sometimes you buy a ruler you're going to measure yourself against. Sometimes you buy nails that are actually going to go into the construction of the house and other things. So it does vary depending on the need and what we're trying to do. And it's a process. It can take, sometimes it takes longer than we intend, but we work really hard to make sure that we're vetting all those partners. We go through a data evaluation phase. So we're getting sample data, extensive samples from our partners and potential partners to really make sure that what we're going to get from them on an ongoing basis is going to meet our needs, and that relationship is going to be a good one. And so we work really hard, and by the time it's done, we've really developed a strong working relationship with each of those partners. All right. One more question maybe before we go get drinks? Unless you want to go, somebody wants to go bring us some.
You said the wrong thing.
What?
You didn't sell that too.
No. Okay. All right.
Drinks.
Drinks. I should have said drinks. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank all the panelists. Thank you guys very much. Thank you all for attending.
Thanks, y'all.
Really appreciate it.